It's my honor to turn it over to Judge Colgan. Proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Before we get started, let me check with the plaintiff, the prosecution, Team J. Has everyone had a chance to look and see if there are any conflicts? And if so, would you please let me know about that, whether there are any conflicts? Not hearing anything, I'm assuming that means that there are no conflicts on the prosecution's team. Let me ask the same question from the defense team. Any issues with conflicts on the defense team? Not hearing anything, I will assume there's no conflicts on the defense team. We've already checked with myself and the scoring panelists, and there do not appear to be any conflicts from either one of us. So it appears as though we can proceed forward. Okay. All right. If I can have the prosecution introduce themselves individually, and we'll start with Ms. Hobson. Would you introduce yourself, and then everybody else, please introduce yourselves.
Hello, Your Honor. My name is Mallory Hobson. I will be conducting the opening statement, the direct examination of Kyle Cusack, and the cross-examination of Avery Becker.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, members of the jury. My name is Katie Dolan, and today I will be conducting the direct examination of Detective Jordan Markowitz and the cross-examination of Professor Blake Van Owen, and conducting the closing argument.
Thank you, ma'am. Next.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Remy Peck, and I will be conducting the direct examination of Alex Cifuentes and the cross-examination of Taylor Perkins.
Thank you, Ms. Peck. Can I have the witnesses introduce themselves, please, from the prosecution?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Stuart Terry, and I am Detective Jordan Markowitz.
Thank you, Ms. Terry. Next.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Claire Van Kempen, and I'm Kyle Cusack.
Thank you. And next.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Emmy Munn, and I am Alex Cifuentes.
Thank you very much. Did I miss anybody else? I don't think I did, but all right. Can I have members of the defense team introduce themselves, please? Let's start with them. Is it Miss Belani? Is that how I say that?
Yeah, that's correct. Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Trisha Belani, and I will be conducting the direct examination of Taylor Perkins, the cross-examination of Detective Jordan Markowitz, and also the opening statement.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Edmond Kunith, and I will be directing Professor Blake Van Owen and cross-examining Alex Cifuentes.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Hello, Your Honor. My name is Braden Rowe. I will be directing Avery Becker, crossing Kyle Cusack, and conducting the closing statement.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Ananya Shrestha, and I will be playing Avery Becker.
Thank you. Next, please. I believe we have two more witnesses, correct? Did we lose connection with our other two witnesses, or?
No. Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Dylan Zook. I will be playing witness Blake Van Owen.
All right, great. Thank you, Mr. Zook. And then finally, last witness.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I'm Lily McGee. I will be playing Taylor Perkins.
All right, great. Thank you very much. So before we get started, I need to administer a couple of oaths. I have 3 oaths I have to administer. So the first oath I have to do is with the attorneys. So all of the attorneys, if you can simply raise your right hands for me, please. And team members, do you promise that the presentation that you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and the rules of the mock trial competition? Just simply say yes.
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 Thank you very much. The witnesses, would you raise your right hands for me, please? Witnesses, do you promise that the presentation you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and the procedures of the mock trial competition? Simply say yes.
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 Thank you. And finally, scoring panelists, if you'll raise your right hands. Scoring panelists, do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of this mock trial competition?
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, let me ask whether or not there are any preliminary issues on the part of the prosecution.
Yes, Your Honor. May we address preliminary matters before we begin?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay. The parties reached an agreement on a list of stipulated facts. Would you like a copy of the list, or would you like us to read off the stipulations?
I don't need them at this point. Stipulated facts or stipulated exhibits?
Stipulated facts.
Okay.
Okay. We also asked for permission for all admitted exhibits from both the prosecution and the defense to be published to the jury.
Okay, that's granted as well.
We asked the court to assume the witnesses have a trial notebook containing all of the exhibits. When laying foundation for an exhibit, we will state that we are showing the witness the exhibit, and we will not screen share exhibits until they are admitted.
All right, great. That one will be granted.
Yes, Your Honor. And my co-counsel, Ms. Hobson, will be posting all exhibits used in examinations, except her own examinations, in which case I, Ms. Dolan, will post all exhibits.
Okay. Anything
Normally,
else? Oh,
sorry?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Normally in a trial setting, Your Honor, we would stand for all objections. However, we understand that in this Zoom setting, the attorney shall remain seated when objecting.
That's completely understandable. Yes.
And otherwise, Your Honor, we request to stand during the opening statement, closing argument, and direct and cross examination.
That will be fine as well.
That is all I have, Your Honor.
All right, great. Thank you, ma'am. The defense, do you have any preliminary issues you'd like me to address?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like the same preliminary matters for the prosecution to be also reflected upon the defense counsel, as well as for me, as well as my co-counsel and witnesses, to remain seated throughout the course of the trial due to the environment that we are currently in.
Understand. Yeah. The same stipulations will be applied to the defense as well. That's fair.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further.
All right. If we have nothing else, let's go ahead and get started. Does the prosecution have an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Proceed.
Her heart is nearly thumping out of her chest. Her breaths become faster and faster. Her head is filled with rage and hunger for revenge. She tries the front door, locked. She ducks around the side of the house and into the backyard. She tries the back door, which slides open with ease. She slips inside the house, crossing the line from trespass to burglary. She assumed her coach would be at work. She was wrong. Mackenzie Brackman surprised her. They physically fought, knocking over furniture and plates, scuffing up the floor, until she finally got a hold of the murder weapon, a kitchen knife, and stabbed Mackenzie Brackman. Whether it was a spur-of-the-moment decision or not, she had done it. She had killed her mock trial coach. As Coach Brackman was left lying in a pool of his own blood, the defendant Avery Becker realized she had just committed murder and how her plan for payback had gone terribly wrong. The evidence in this case will prove exactly what I've just told you. Maybe Avery didn't cross that threshold with intent to kill, but once she stepped foot through that doorway intending to trash Mackenzie Brackman's home, whatever followed next would be her fault. The law allows prosecutors to charge felons with any murder that occurs during the commission of a felony. So, when the defendant broke into her coach's home, what was a felony of second-degree burglary became the felony murder she is charged with today in this case. This is a case of an arrogant young woman, the star of the mock trial team, who was bent on payback for the humiliation she felt Coach Brackman had dealt her. Prior to the day of Mackenzie Brackman's death, the pair were constantly on thin ice. Avery resented Brackman for treating her just like any normal mock trial student instead of the star she was. After one particularly heated quarrel, in which Coach Brackman called Avery out in front of everyone for her continual lack of preparedness, Avery decided she'd had enough and would get even for the embarrassment he caused her. So, she vandalized his prized white Porsche, writing Worst Attorney Award across the hood in permanent marker. When Coach Brackman discovered this, he screamed to Avery that she was off the team for good. Fuming with rage and embarrassment, Avery formed a plan to get the best payback she could ever imagine, to trash her coach's house. But as the people will prove beyond a reasonable doubt, Avery Becker's payback went terribly wrong. What started as a reckless act of retaliation ended with Mackenzie Brackman's death. Today, you will hear from Detective Jordan Markowitz, a police department investigator who will show you the call data records which tell us that Avery's phone was within the proximity of Coach Brackman's house at the time of the murder. Those records will also tell us that Avery's best friend, Taylor Perkins, was desperately trying to get a hold of her on the day of the murder, but her repeated texts and calls went unanswered. Kyle Kuzak, an expert crime scene reconstructor, will testify how Mackenzie Brackman was murdered and the details between the two of the struggle over the murder weapon. Lastly, Avery's friend and fellow teammate, Alex Cifuentes, will testify about the text messages she exchanged with Avery. In those texts, Avery openly admits planning to go to Coach Brackman's house to trash it. The defense will implausibly allege that Alex stole Avery's phone to set her up and faked those texts. They will also allege that Avery couldn't have committed this crime because she was with Taylor the entire day of March 6th, looking for Avery's lost phone at the mall. But the only person who can testify to this is Taylor, the only alibi witness. Even if Avery didn't go into that house intending to harm her coach, Mackenzie Brackman is dead because of Avery Becker. Avery illegally entered Coach Brackman's home to teach him a lesson and was left with payback gone wrong.
Thank you, ma'am. Does the defense have an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Proceed.
Let me take you back to the golden days of childhood when we'd pass our days by solving puzzles. And the worst frustration in our 6-year-old self's eyes was finding multiple missing pieces. We'd look back at the puzzle and find that the picture is almost unrecognizable without those pieces. Now imagine this. The puzzle's picture is the scene of a murder, and the blood is on your hands. The puzzle presented to you by the prosecution is an incomplete one. On March 6, 2020, Mackenzie Brackman was found dead at his residence. According to the prosecution, the defendant, Avery Becker, a teenager with a natural talent and passion for mock trial, is guilty of murdering Brackman. As a defendant, we are present today with the standard of proof to uphold Avery Becker's lack of motive and to highlight the police's cursory investigation of this case. Throughout this trial, the facts and evidence will prove that Becker has been wrongfully accused of murder. We're here to encourage you to take note of all the missing pieces. Imagine you're our client, Avery Becker, a teenager who's still navigating the world, but you have a gift of persuading juries and arguing cases well in court. Unfortunately, Becker was punished for this gift. She often came to mock trial meetings unprepared, which became a source of conflict between Becker and Brackman. Eventually, Brackman demoted Becker to the Colorado High School's mock trial B team. Naturally, Becker reacted in a foolish but typical teenage manner. She wrote on Brackman's car using what she thought was an erasable marker. And as a result, Becker was kicked off the mock trial team entirely. The prosecution will tempt you to believe that this is enough motive for someone to take another's life. The reality is that Becker has shown remorse for her actions and repeatedly tried to apologize to Brackman. Today, you will hear from two supporting witnesses, Taylor Perkins and Blake Van Owen. Taylor Perkins is another member of the mock trial team at Colorado High School and is also Becker's best friend. During the day of the crime, Perkins was with Becker the entire day as they were looking for Becker's phone that went missing the night before. Though Perkins and Becker went to a variety of places, including the mall and the fry shack, evidence will show that they didn't stray from their search and certainly did not travel to Brackman's house. Professor Blake Van Owen is a private investigator and professor. He has previously testified as an expert in crime scene reconstruction, cell tower analysis, and police investigation tactics and practices, including use of force and false arrest. He is a strong advocate for social justice in law enforcement. In this case, Van Owen investigated the inconsistencies with the prosecution's crime scene reconstruction, including issues with scuff marks, stab wounds, and the footage from Brackman's Ring camera system. The presented puzzle is one that is incomplete, thanks to the very police trying to convince you that Becker is guilty and fully capable of committing murder at age 17. The prosecution will try to convince you that this is the full picture. However, you'll consistently observe their missing pieces during this trial. Starting with Detective Jordan Markowitz, who has questionable certifications and made assumptions with insufficient cell phone data, as well as from other witnesses, including Kyle Kuzak, a biased officer, and Alex Fuentes, a member of the Colorado High School mock trial team, who was constantly in competition with our client, Avery Becker. Throughout this entire trial, as defendants, we will make it evident that there are numerous missing pieces in the prosecution's puzzle that prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Becker is innocent. From a lack of investigation to simple assumptions made based off of insufficient evidence to a clear lack of motive from our client, the jury will see that this investigation was nowhere near thorough enough to convict Avery Becker of murder. The police have attempted to put this puzzle together using an incomplete set of pieces. With these, they have created their own picture, a marred representation of what actually happened. So, members of the jury, the power is in your hands. When it comes to a lost life, we shouldn't be satisfied with an incomplete picture of this puzzle. Rather, we must recognize the missing pieces. Today, we're simply asking you to bring justice to Avery Becker and the late Mackenzie Brackman. At the end of this trial, I ask you to submit a verdict that Avery Becker is not guilty.
Thank you, ma'am. Prosecution may call their first witness.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call Detective Jordan Markowitz to the stand. Could you please state your name for the record?
Good afternoon. My name is Detective Jordan Markowitz.
Detective Markowitz, why are you here today?
I'm here to testify as an expert witness in the investigation of the murder of Mackenzie Brackman.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a homicide detective with the Denver Police Department.
How long have you been with the Denver Police Department?
I've been with the Denver Police Department for roughly 13 years, and I've been a detective for 7 of those years.
As a detective, do you have any specialized training?
Yes, I have a cell phone technology and a forensic data recovery certification from the American Academy of Law Enforcement.
What did you learn during the training to receive this certification?
I learned how to obtain and interpret cell phone data, including cell tower records, and how to use forensic software to download information from a cell phone.
Do you use this information to form your expert opinions in court cases?
Yes, I have downloaded the contents of hundreds of cell phones. I have also obtained and interpreted cell tower data in over 50 cases.
Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of Detective Markowitz as an expert in the fields of cell phone technology, forensic data recovery, and police investigation.
Objection.
Is there any void deer or objection from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to perform a voir dire on this witness.
Please.
Detective Markowitz, you testified that you have specialized training in cell phone data, correct?
Yes, I do.
However, to obtain the certification, you completed a 3-day training course?
Yes, I completed the standard training course to get my certifications.
And other than that, you didn't mention any other education and training in cellular technology?
I received my degree in, I just received my training in this field and took a standard class to receive it.
And you have used this little amount of training in over 50 cases, correct?
I have used my training in over 50 cases.
But you used that little amount of training in all those cases, correct?
I did use the training I received in these cases.
No further questions. Your Honor, I request that this witness not be admitted as an expert in the listed fields.
Thank you. The court will accept Detective Markowitz as an expert in the 3 areas that were requested. Thank you. Proceed.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that I am sharing a copy of Exhibit 1 with the opposing counsel. Permission to show Exhibit 1 to the witness.
Yes.
Detective Markowitz, do you recognize this photograph?
Yes, this is the victim, criminal defense lawyer Mackenzie Brackman.
How do you know this was Mackenzie Brackman?
I saw Brackman's ID. Brackman was a criminal defense attorney. I investigated several homicides that Brackman later defended.
Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of Exhibit 1.
Any objection from the defense?
Objection, lack of foundation.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Please.
My witness has established the foundation that they know who the victim was in this photograph and they investigated the crime scene.
Well, I am going to sustain the objection. Go ahead and lay the foundation how she came when she recognized this, what is in the photograph.
Okay.
How is it that she knows what's in the photograph?
As the lead detective, what were your responsibilities in investigating this case?
On Friday, March 6, 2020, a passing motorist saw Mackenzie Brackman's body on the porch. Officers secured the crime scene, and then I responded at around 2:20 p.m.
All right. With that, I will go ahead and admit your exhibit. Is that Exhibit 1?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Exhibit 1 will be admitted.
Permission to publish Exhibit 1 to the jury through my co-counsel sharing their screen?
Yes.
What did you observe when you first arrived at the scene of the crime?
I instantly saw Brackman's body, face down and in a pool of blood. I also saw a large knife on the floor just past Brackman's body. It was obvious that he had been stabbed.
Did you observe anything else on the front porch?
I noticed a Ring doorbell. Then I walked around the house and spotted 2 more cameras aimed at the gate and the backyard, and the back door.
Okay, so once you went inside the house, what did you observe?
The residence was slightly in disarray, but I couldn't tell if this was the result of a struggle or just the normal state of the house.
Objection, speculation.
I'm sorry?
Objection, speculation.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Please.
According to Rule 702, because this witness has been admitted as an expert, they may present their testimony in the forms of opinions.
I'll go ahead and allow her to testify, so I'm going to overrule your objection.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that I am sharing copies of Exhibits 7 through 9 with the opposing counsel. Permission to show Exhibits 7 through 9 to the witness?
Yes?
Do you recognize these pictures?
Yes, these are pictures from inside the house.
Do these pictures depict a fair and accurate representation of the crime scene as you saw it?
Yes, they do.
Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of Exhibits 7 through 9.
Any objection from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Objection, lack of foundation.
7 through 9 will be admitted.
Okay. So what do these pictures show?
I observed a partially open kitchen drawer that contained several knives, a knife block on the counter that had a large empty slot, and a broken plate.
Okay, now what did you do next in your investigation?
I downloaded the information from Brackman's phone, obtained account data and password for his Ring account, and logged into his account.
What did you obtain from his Ring account?
I obtained 4 videos that captured the intruder.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that I am sharing copies of Exhibits 10 through 13 with the opposing counsel. Permission to show Exhibits 10 through 13 to the witness?
Yes.
Do you recognize these exhibits?
Yes, these are the videos that I obtained from Brackman's Ring account of the intruder attempting to enter, entering, and running out of the home.
Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of Exhibits 10 through 13.
Objection from the defense? Does the defense have an objection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, 10 through 13 will be admitted?
Permission to publish Exhibits 10 through 13 to the jury?
Yes.
What do these videos specifically show?
The intruder was wearing what looked like a Halloween mask and gloves. The intruder first tried the front door, but it was locked. They then entered the backyard through the gate and entered the residence through the unlocked back door. Lastly, the intruder ran out of the front door.
What did you conclude from these videos?
It looked like Brackman had interrupted a random burglary.
Did you consider who would have wanted to break into Brackman's house?
Well, since he was a criminal defense lawyer, it made sense to me that this could have been an angry ex-client. Even though this may have been an unlikely scenario, I needed to weigh all options and not jump to conclusions. I always follow the evidence and go where it takes me.
What evidence did you turn to at this point?
I looked at Brackman's phone and saw tremendous amounts of texts and emails related to something called mock trial.
How was Brackman related to mock trial?
I found out that Brackman was a high school mock trial coach for Colorado High School.
Did it seem likely that Brackman's mock trial activity had anything to do with his death?
No, it seemed highly unlikely. But like I said, good police work requires you to follow the evidence presented.
Did you further investigate the mock trial team?
I reached out to Colorado High School in order to get contact information on the team.
Who did you get in contact with?
First, I got in touch with a student named Alex Cifuentes. Alex told me that another student on the team texted her about how she was...
Was there an objection? I'm sorry.
Yes, I objected hearsay.
I'm gonna ask you to rephrase, counsel. Rephrase your question.
Okay. So, did you interview Alex Cifuentes?
Yes, I did. And Alex Cifuentes told me that another student on the team texted her about how she was planning on crashing.
Okay, ma'am, you're gonna have to speak up. I know your voice is kind of quiet, but when we have objections like this, you'll have to speak up for me, okay? All right, so what's your objection again? I'm sorry?
Hearsay again, Your Honor.
All right, counsel?
This is, according to 803, Section 3, a statement of the declarant's intent.
All right, I'll overrule that objection. Go ahead.
So let me re-ask my question. Did you interview Alex?
Yes, I did. And Alex told me that another student on the team texted her about how she was planning on trashing Brackman's house while he was at work. I conducted a full interview with Alex and her parents.
Who was this student who texted Alex?
The defendant, Avery Becker, who, in fact, was a senior who Brackman kicked off of A team because she vandalized his car.
Can you identify the defendant, Avery Becker, in the courtroom?
Yes, she has black hair and is wearing glasses and a black blazer.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that I am sharing a copy of Exhibit 14 with the opposing counsel. Permission to show Exhibit 14 to the witness?
Yes.
Do you recognize these pictures?
Yes, these are the photos of the text exchanged from Avery to Alex.
And how did you obtain these photos of the text?
I had Alex send me photos of the text between Avery and Alex.
Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of Exhibit 14.
Any objection from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Authenticity.
Counsel, response?
According to Rule 703, if facts or data would otherwise be admissible, the proponent of the opinion may disclose them to the jury if their probative value in helping the jury evaluate the opinion outweighs the prejudicial effect. This is also showing the basis for what Markowitz did next in her investigation.
And I don't mean to speak for defense counsel, but I think the question is where did she get these texts and how did she get them? So why don't you ask those questions? So with that in mind, I'm going to sustain that objection, but go ahead and find out where she got the text and how she got them.
Okay. So during this interview, how did you get these texts?
Well, Alex forgot to bring her phone to the interview, but after the interview, I asked if she would be willing to send screenshots of the text between Avery and Alex later.
So did you receive these texts directly from Alex?
Yes, and these texts are exactly what I received.
All right, with that foundation, I'll go ahead and admit Exhibit 14.
Permission to publish Exhibit 14 to the jury?
Yes.
What do these texts show?
Avery asks if Alex would be willing to talk to Brackman about having her back on the team, but Alex tells Avery that Brackman is still upset with Avery. Avery says, quote, "If he's still upset about his car, then he's going to be really upset when he sees what I do to his house."
What did you conclude from the text messages?
Avery wanted payback on Brackman.
Did you interview Avery Becker?
I immediately contacted Avery and arranged an interview. However, right before the interview, I got a call from Avery's lawyer who said that Avery would not be appearing for the interview.
So what did you do now that you couldn't interview Avery?
I obtained a search warrant for Avery's cell phone, but Avery's lawyer told me that Avery had lost her phone a day before Brackman's death and no longer has it.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
I will move on. Did Avery's attorney provide you with any other information?
Yes, Avery's attorney gave me Avery's phone number. I got a court order to obtain cell tower records for March 6th.
What did the cell tower records show?
According to the cell detail records, a CDR, Taylor Perkins, another Colorado high school student, was sending several texts and calls to Avery's phone leading up to the murder.
Was Taylor able to get in touch with Avery?
No, the phone calls were of such a short duration of time that Taylor was likely calling and texting Avery, but Avery wasn't answering.
Let the record reflect that I am sharing a copy of Exhibit 16 with the opposing counsel. Permission to show Exhibit 16 to the witness?
Yes.
Do you recognize this diagram?
Yes, this is the diagram I made that shows the location of the cell towers that Avery's phone communicated with in the time leading up to the homicide. It also shows the most likely route Avery was driving along.
Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of Exhibit 16.
Any objection from the defense?
Speculation.
Counsel, your response?
Again, because the witness has been admitted as an expert, according to Rule 703, they may form their own opinions.
Is this as I haven't seen the exhibit, is this a cell phone chart or
Yes.
phone tower chart?
And this witness regularly conducts these business records.
With that, I'll admit Exhibit 16.
Permission to publish Exhibit 16 to the jury?
Yes.
What specifically did you show in the diagram?
Avery received a text at 12:47 from Taylor through the cell tower that covers Avery's house. Taylor sent another text at 12:55. The location would be consistent with Avery driving on the way to Brackman's house.
Were there more communications after 12:55?
Taylor called Avery at 1:05 and 1:06 and sent a text at 1:17 from the cell tower, all from the cell tower by Brackman's house. All activity on Avery's phone stopped after 1:20.
Why do you think all activity stopped on Avery's phone?
I conclude Avery's phone was turned off completely after the murder and likely destroyed and disposed of later.
Based on your expert opinions, what do you conclude the CDR data indicates?
Avery was at Brackman's house during the time of the murder. Avery broke into his house with the intent to break in and vandalize his house in retaliation for getting kicked off of the mock trial team.
Do you believe Avery actually set out to kill Brackman?
I don't believe Avery set out to kill Brackman. It was the middle of a weekday, so it would have made sense that Brackman would be at work. But Brackman was home.
What do you conclude happened when Avery was attempting to break into Brackman's house?
Brackman would have known there was an intruder through the ring videos and quickly armed himself with a knife. Avery somehow got the knife and fatally stabbed Brackman. It was a burglary gone wrong.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Yes. Detective Jordan Markowitz, you stated that good police work requires following up on all potential leads, correct?
Yes, it did. Yes, it does.
And you also stated that you believe that there's a possibility that the intruder in Brackman's house on March 6th could have been the work of a disgruntled ex-client, correct?
I did, but like I said, I do follow my evidence and see where it takes me.
However, you also did not choose to follow up on these potential suspects, correct?
I decided to follow the evidence that was presented to me, and I used reliable principles and methods to come to my conclusions.
Moving on to our defendant, Avery Becker. You didn't choose to follow up on Becker's alibi, correct?
No.
And you also didn't follow up on the alibi of Taylor Perkins, who was with Becker when the murder occurred?
No.
In fact, you also didn't investigate any potential witnesses that could confirm or deny these alibis?
As I said before, I do follow the evidence that is presented, and I came to my conclusion based on sufficient facts.
Moving on to the people who you did investigate, the first student from CHS you interviewed was Alex Cifuentes, right?
Yes, I did interview Alex Cifuentes.
And Cifuentes came to you with the claim that Becker was allegedly planning to trash Brackman's house, correct?
Yes.
But when you interviewed them, Alex Cifuentes didn't bring their phone to the interview?
Yeah, she didn't.
And did you find this odd?
I did find it odd, but I trusted Alex.
And you had her take screenshots of the text conversations between Becker and herself, correct?
Yes, I did.
But you didn't receive these screenshots until the day after your interview with Cifuentes?
I did receive these screenshots a day after my interview.
And you didn't choose to obtain evidence of the text messages yourself?
I've been a detective for 7 years, have worked for the Denver Police Department for 13 years, and I trust my methods of collecting evidence.
Just to confirm, you only saw the screenshots of the actual text messages, correct?
I did see the photos of the text between Alex and Avery.
Detective Markowitz, are you aware that there is technology available to recreate fake text messages?
Objection. Out of the scope.
Oh, I think this is within her scope as a technological expert. She can answer the question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Are you aware that there is technology available to recreate fake text messages?
Yes, but I do not believe that it was used in this case.
And although you were moving on to Becker's cell phone, although you were never able to physically retrieve it, you were able to obtain some of its records, correct?
Yes, I obtained the CDRs.
And based primarily off these cell phone records from Becker's phone, you assume that Becker was at all the same locations?
And with my other evidence collected, I did assume that Becker was with her phone.
And the CDR records cover a 6 to 7 mile radius, correct?
Yes, they do.
And you also discovered that these CDRs indicated that another phone attempted to contact Becker's phone.
Yes, but Becker didn't answer.
But you've confirmed that that phone belongs to Taylor Perkins?
Yes, Taylor Perkins was contacting Avery, but like I said, Avery wasn't answering.
And you also never followed up on why Perkins' phone was calling Becker's? Moving on to missing evidence. You were unable to present all of the pictures taken at the crime scene, correct?
Unfortunately, some of the evidence was corrupted.
And you aren't aware how those pictures were corrupted, correct?
Correct, but it is unfortunate.
So, Detective Markowitz, based on what you've testified thus far, you did not follow up on all potential suspects.
I attempted to interview as many candidates as I could. I was unable to interview Avery, but I did follow my evidence presented. And based off of my training and my experience, I came to this conclusion that Avery Becker murdered Brackman.
And you also didn't follow up on potentially key witnesses, especially regarding Taylor's alibi?
I followed my evidence and I trust my investigation, especially after I've been a detective for 7 years.
And you also lost some potentially key evidence?
Unfortunately, some of these photos were corrupted.
No further questions.
Thank you. I will allow one short redirect question if the prosecution has anything. But we're a little behind schedule, so I can only allow 1 or 2 questions.
Okay. So what conclusion did you come to in the end, based on all the evidence?
I came to the conclusion that Avery Becker was at Brackman's house during the time of the murder.
Thank you. No further questions.
And defense, do you have any questions based on that question from the prosecution?
No, Your Honor.
All right, great. Thank you. Witness, you may be excused. Does the prosecution have another witness?
Yes, Your Honor. We call Miss Kyle Kuzak to the stand. May you please state your name for the court?
My name is Kyle Kuzak.
Ms. Kuzak, why are you here today?
I'm here today to discuss the murder of Mackenzie Brackman.
Can you please tell us a little bit about your career?
Yes, of course. I am a crime scene reconstructor, and I'm currently working with the Denver Police Department.
How long have you been in this job?
So I've been investigating crime scenes for 19 years, and for the last 3 years, I've been a civilian employee of the Denver Police Department.
What does your occupation require you to do?
I investigate complex crime scenes, and then I document all the evidence, and I do this with many different cases from homicides to home invasions, burglaries, domestic violence, or other property crimes.
Can you explain the standard procedure you conduct?
Yes, so with all of my investigations, I organize all of my evidence, and then I go in with the mindset that all cases are going to trial, and I do this through a 5-step process.
Can you explain these 5 steps?
Yes, of course. So first I go through the process of recognition and documentation. Then I collect the evidence. I then evaluate said evidence. I formulate my hypothesis and then test it. And then as my final step, I reconstruct the crime scene.
Your Honor, I tender Ms. Kyle Kuzak as an expert witness in crime scene reconstruction and investigation.
Any voir dire or objection from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. I ask for permission to voir dire this witness.
Go ahead.
Miss Kuzak, are you a police officer?
No, I never have been. I'm a CSR.
And so you are a civilian employee?
Yeah, but I'm a civilian employee with nearly 2 decades of experience.
But are those last 3 years of experience exclusively with the city of Denver?
Yes, I've been working with the Denver Police Department.
And do you have any documentation with you over your experience in these fields?
Currently not on my person.
The defense objects to the admission of Kyle Kuzak as an expert witness under the basis of a lack of certification and experience in their current position.
The witness will be accepted as an expert. Those are things that you can certainly argue in cross or can talk about in cross or argue in closing counsel. But under 702, witness will be accepted as an expert.
Your Honor, I'm sharing with the opposing counsel what has been marked as Exhibit 17. Permission to share with my witness.
Yes.
Can you tell me what this is?
This is a copy of my witness and evidence tracking sheet.
Did you prepare this document?
Yes, I did.
Was this document made near the time of the murder?
Yes, it was.
Was this document made using information and analysis you acquired in your reconstruction of the crime scene?
Yes.
Is it your regular practice to make a document like this?
Yes, I like to do it for all of my cases.
Your Honor, we move for the admission of Exhibit 17 into evidence.
Any objection from the defense?
No objection, Your Honor.
Permission for my
Well,
co-counsel.
that was 17, counsel.
Yes.
17 will be admitted?
Permission for my co-counsel to publish to the jury.
Yes.
Ms. Kuzak, can you elaborate on your witness tracking sheet and flowchart?
Of course. So it pretty much summarizes the main points from each of the witnesses' testimonies, and then I like to sort them into groups, and then you can also show the key physical and chronological relationships this way.
Moving on, did you visit the crime scene?
Yes, I did.
And after visiting the crime scene and reviewing the evidence, did you draw any expert conclusions?
Yes, I believe I did. So a person with the similar build and height to as the defendant entered Mr. Brackman's porch and then continued onto the south side of his residence, where the intruder then was caught on a home security camera and approached the back door and entered through the entered the home using the back door.
Where in the house did you investigate?
Everywhere, but I mainly made discoveries in the back of his house.
What were these discoveries?
There were scuff marks on the kitchen floor near the back door, and so this suggested that there was a struggle between the victim and the intruder.
Did you notice anything else while investigating throughout Mr. Brackman's home?
Yes, the knife the victim was stabbed with was different than the other knives in his knife block.
Your Honor, I am sharing with my opposing counsel what has been marked and previously admitted as Exhibits 7 and 8. Ms. Kuzak, are these the photos that helped you draw conclusions surrounding the murder weapon?
Yes, it is.
What were these differences you previously mentioned?
Well, so the knife that the victim was stabbed with was a Chicago cutlery knife, while the knives in the block were from a J.A. Henkel set.
What expert conclusions did you draw from this?
So I believe that the victim looked for a weapon to use in defense and looked in the drawer first, but then eventually went with a larger knife from the block.
Now I would like to talk to you about the autopsy report. Your Honor, I am sharing with my opposing counsel what has been marked as Exhibit 19. Permission to show my witness?
Yes.
Can you tell me what this is?
This is the autopsy report of attorney Mr. Brackman.
Is this the same report you received while conducting your investigation?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit Exhibit 19 into evidence.
Any objection or voir dire from the defense?
I object to a lack of foundation about the autopsy of this witness, or of Mackenzie Brackman.
Counsel, would you lay a little bit better foundation to address how she got that document and how it's been used in her investigation?
Your Honor, under Rule 9017, by testimony, this was the official coroner's report obtained by my witness.
So that has a seal on it? Does it have a seal on it?
I believe so.
Okay. If it does, I'll admit number 19.
Permission for my co-counsel to publish to the jury?
Yes.
Thank you. In your expert opinion, what did you conclude from this report?
So the victim was stabbed only once in his right shoulder blade, and I do not think that Mr. Brackman and the intruder were engaged for a long period before he was fatally stabbed.
What is the final expert conclusion you drew from this?
It seems like the victim was approached and they fought over the knife, which was the resulting signs of which resulted in signs of a struggle like scuff marks and a broken plate.
What do you think about the victim's awareness of the intruder at the time?
Well, for Mr. Brackman to be stabbed in the back, he would have needed to be surprised by the intruder, but given these circumstances, I don't think this was possible.
Could you elaborate on these circumstances?
Of course. So, along with the opening door, the ring alert, and the ring alerts, the victim was surely aware that the intruder was in his home. And then the theory that the victim was stabbed at the kitchen table does not explain the scuff marks, the broken plate, the open knife drawer, or the empty slot in the knife block.
In your expert opinion, what happened in this case?
I believe that this was an attempted home invasion that went wrong and resulted in a fatal wound and Mackenzie Brackman's death.
Thank you, Ms. Becker, or Ms. Kuzak. I have no further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination.
Yes, do I have permission to cross-examine this witness?
Okay.
Kyle Kuzak, did you visit the crime scene?
Yes, I did.
But the crime scene was processed before you got there, right?
Yes, it was.
And you claim that the evidence did not give you a complicated fact pattern, or rather, it was an easy case.
Sorry, did you say it was or wasn't an easy case?
It was, because the evidence did not give you a complicated fact pattern.
Well, yeah, I feel like the evidence that we were provided with just didn't allow for many different conclusions. So yes.
Okay. Do you claim that your CSR process is very accurate and efficient?
Yes, I believe it is. I've been doing this for 19 years, so I've had time to really understand what helps me in my work. And so
based on your
yes.
reconstruction, the first event was the perpetrator trying to enter through the front door.
Yes, but it was locked.
The perpetrator was wearing a mask, preventing anyone from seeing the face of them.
Yeah, it looked like a Halloween mask.
And there was no DNA or fingerprints found at the scene.
No, you can't do that when someone's wearing gloves.
Did it take the perpetrator approximately 10 seconds to get from the gate to the back door?
Yes, I believe that's what the evidence said.
Okay. In this time, you believe that the victim, Mackenzie Brackman, was notified, recognized the threat, and armed themselves.
Yes, because with hearing all of that and then also getting the ring alerts, he was surely notified of the intruder's presence.
Okay. Did you ever look into Mackenzie Brackman's phone to see if the ring notifications were on?
No, we did not do that.
So you cannot confirm that Brackman was alerted?
No, but Ring does alert via phone.
Okay. So you believe there was a scuffle between Brackman and the perpetrator?
Yeah, a struggle between them.
And a plate got knocked over in this struggle?
Yeah, along with some scuff marks that were left on the ground. And then you can also there was just signs of it.
Okay. Are there any other ways plates can get broken or scuff marks can be made?
They can, but someone usually just doesn't throw a plate on the ground.
Okay. Was the knife used to stab Mackenzie Brackman a Chicago cutlery chef's knife?
Yes, it was, but it was different from all the other knives in the block, which were from a J. Henkel set.
And is that J. Henkel set more expensive?
I honestly do not remember the prices of the knives.
Ms. Kuzak, you stated in your direct examination that the J.A. Henkel site was, knife block was more expensive.
Okay, then I trust myself that it was more expensive.
Okay. So the knife that was used to replace the supposedly broken or damaged knife from that J.A. Henkel set was less expensive.
Yes, it was then.
Okay. Is it true that you read over how Blake Van Owen believes Brackman was stabbed?
Yeah, but I just don't think that's possible because to be stabbed like that Mr. Brackman would have needed to be surprised, and I really don't believe that was possible for him.
Okay, so you disagree with this conclusion?
I do disagree.
And do some of Blake Van Owen's conclusions fall outside of your area of expertise.
It does, but then again, I believe that I am more qualified than Blake Van Owen.
From day one, did you memorialize, document, and organize evidence?
Yeah, I really do like organizing and keeping myself like in line and making sure I have everything laid out.
Okay, but the blood splatter and blood cast-off photos were still lost despite this supposed effort.
Yeah, they were sadly corrupted, which I know that myself and Detective Markowitz, we both wish that they were not.
Okay, did you look into all leads and all evidence in this case?
Yes, I did, and those can be seen in Exhibit 17, which is also my flowchart evidence tracking sheet.
Okay, but did you look into the suspect named Blair Rollins?
No, but it is also not my job to interview them, so it was not up to me who was interviewed.
And you were not able to recreate all event segments and place all evidence in this case?
No, I couldn't because like any other CSR or anyone investigating, we would like more evidence in any case.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. And again, prosecution, if you've got one very quick redirect question, I can allow that.
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Next witness, please.
Prosecution would like to call Alex Cifuentes to the stand, Your Honor. Could you please state your name for the court?
Absolutely. My name is Alex Cifuentes.
Where do you go to school?
I attend Colorado High School.
Are you a member of the mock trial team?
Yes, I am.
And who is on your team?
Avery Becker, along with Taylor Perkins.
Who is your coach?
Mackenzie Brackman.
Could you describe your experience with him as your coach?
I've always liked having Brackman as a coach. He knew the legal system very well, and it was a very enjoyable experience.
What was your relationship with Avery Becker?
We've been pretty good
Objection
friends.
relevance.
Counsel.
Your Honor, I'm establishing the witness's relationship to Avery Becker, who is the defendant in this case.
Okay, overruled. Go ahead.
How was your relationship with Avery Becker?
Avery and I have been pretty good friends for a while. She was actually the one who convinced me to try mock trial. But high school's pretty busy, so I really only see her when it comes to mock trial practice.
How are Avery's mock trial skills?
Impeccable. She was really good at improvising, working on her feet, making things up on the fly, but sometimes she lacked a bit of preparation, so it caused a bit of anxiety for the team.
Could you describe that anxiety you observed?
Sure. From my observations, our teammates really like to work as a team. So by Avery not preparing, it didn't really contribute to that team effort.
Did you and Avery have any conflict?
I mean, a little, but nothing ever significant. I think it's just frustrating because the blatant fact is that Avery is really talented. It's not her fault. She just is.
And what did you observe the team's response was when Avery came to practice unprepared?
Like I said, I think it irked them a little because she wasn't really contributing to the team effort, but we get over it.
Did you observe any conflict between Avery and Mr. Brackman?
Yes, they argued quite often in terms of how things should be run, preparation versus improvising.
Was there a specific point when things were especially bad between Avery and Mr. Brackman?
Yes, the practice after regionals, which Avery did spectacularly, the tension was pretty high between the two.
And are there any other instances of conflict between Brackman and Avery that stand out to you?
Yes, like I said, when they went to regionals, the tension was super high. They got into a very large argument, and Avery ended up vandalizing Brackman's car, and that's when Avery was kicked off the team.
And what do you mean by tension?
Well, this full-blown argument broke out. There were lots of yelling, lots of screaming, and like I said, Avery ended up vandalizing Brackman's car.
Did that affect you at all?
Objection relevance.
Counsel.
Your Honor, I'm establishing how Avery being kicked off the team, how it relates to Ms. Cifuentes.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Please.
In terms of relevance, the feelings that Alex has no contribution between the relationship of Avery Becker and the victim, Mackenzie Brackman, and has no relation into which Avery Becker, whether or not the defendant committed these crimes.
I am going to sustain his objection. Move on.
Did Avery ever make an effort to get back on the team this time?
Yes, she actually texted me.
So you and Avery texted back and forth that day.
Yes.
And what did you gather from these text messages?
Basically, she was mentioning a lot of stuff about breaking into Brackman's house while he was gone. I was astonished.
Your Honor, permission to show a copy of what has previously been admitted as Exhibit 14 with the witness.
Yes, go ahead.
Are these fair and accurate text messages between you and Avery Becker?
Yes.
And so are these screenshots from your phone or are they printouts?
They're screenshots.
So why didn't you just show them your phone?
Well, I absentmindedly forgot my phone on the charger when I rushed down to the police station for my interview. So the detective said that screenshots were just fine.
And what did the text say?
Avery was basically blatantly saying that she was going to do something to Brackman's house, and I was just responding with things like, why would you do that?
Objection, hearsay.
Counsel?
Your Honor,
this exhibit has been admitted. As long as she's staying within the four corners of the exhibit, she can testify. But if she goes outside the four corners, then we'll have to deal with that. Okay? So the exhibit speaks for itself.
Ms. Cifuentes, what did the text say?
Avery was basically blatantly saying that she was going to do something to Brackman's house, and I was just responding, wondering why.
Had anyone else seen these screenshots?
I believe some investigator saw them because they came to my house, and that's when I started being accused of faking the text messages that I was sending to Avery, which is absolutely ridiculous because she was my really good friend. I would never do that to a friend. And worse yet, I'm being accused of giving the phone to some kid named Blair Rollins.
What was your relationship with Blair Rollins?
I barely know the kid.
Objection, lack of foundation. Who is Blair Rollins?
Counsel?
Your Honor, I believe the witness just established that Blair Rollins was a member of the team or went to the school.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Please. Go ahead.
We do not have in terms of the specifications of the relationship between Alex and Blair specifically, as well as the relationship between Blair and Avery, as well as the victim, Mackenzie Brackman.
I do recall cross-examination, that name coming up and that question being asked of the prosecution witness. So go ahead. You can answer the question.
Ms. Cifuentes, what was your relationship with Blair Rollins?
I barely know the kid, so I think it's absolutely ridiculous that I would be accused of stealing someone's phone and giving it to somebody that I barely know. Also, Blair wasn't even on the mock trial team, so even more so, I don't know the kid.
Are you still friends with Avery?
You know, it's sad because we used to be friends, but due to these circumstances, it's made it really difficult. And based on what she said to me and based on what she did to the car, she killed him.
Thank you, Ms. Cifuentes. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Cifuentes. For the following questions, I would like you to specify with a yes or no answer. Do you understand the implications of these questions?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to start by talking about your involvement with the collection of evidence of the case. You're going to show the text messages between you and Avery to Detective Markowitz, correct?
Yes.
But you left your phone at home, is that correct?
Clumsy mistake.
So instead, you sent screenshots of the text to Detective Markowitz, is that correct?
Per request of the detective, yes.
And you were the only one to physically see your cell phone, is that correct?
One's on paper, one's on the phone, not much difference there.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Witness. And you got rid of your phone.
Yes, the battery went bad.
And now moving on, I'm going to ask you more specifically about the day Avery got kicked off the team.
Okay.
That day you saw Avery at the Fry Shack, correct?
That's correct.
And you state in your statement that you played the game on Avery's phone. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Then Avery left with Taylor.
Yeah, yes, she did.
Okay. Now I'm going to talk about your relationship with Avery Becker. Now, you didn't appreciate the way Becker treated your teammates. Is that correct?
Her lack of preparation was frustrating.
Is this a yes or a no, Ms. Cifuentes?
You could say that.
Is this a yes or a no?
Yes.
And do you think Avery always played the victim?
Yes.
And you did not like how Avery would make things up on the spot on direct examinations. Is that correct?
Objection relevance.
Counsel?
Your Honor, this helps tie in the relationship and the feelings between Avery Becker and Alex Cifuentes.
So this goes towards the animosity between the two?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Overruled. Go ahead.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
I would love that. Thank you.
You did not like how Avery would make up things on the spot on direct examinations. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you think it's unfair that Avery won the Best Attorney Award at the regional tournament. Is that correct?
In some ways, yes.
And you think it's unfair that Avery also got the Best Closing Argument Award at the regional tournament. Is that correct?
In some ways, yes.
And you stated that Avery doesn't work hard. Is that right?
In some ways, yes.
Is that a yes or a no?
Yes.
Okay. And you thought that Avery won the award solemnly based on looks.
In some ways, yes.
I'm now going to talk about the day Avery got demoted. Now, just to see here, in terms of the mock trial team, is it split into an A and B teams? Is that correct?
Yes.
And the A team has a limited amount of spots.
Yes.
And one day Avery was late to mock trial, right?
Yes.
And based upon this, that day Brackman demoted Avery to the B team. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you think Brackman was right in demoting Avery to the B team?
In some ways, yes.
Now I'm going to talk about the vandalism on Brackman's car. You thought Brackman should have pressed charges when Avery wrote on Brackman's car?
She did something bad. She deserved punishment.
Is that a yes or a no?
Yes.
After Avery wrote on Brackman's car, you got removed. Avery got removed from the mock trial team.
That's correct.
You thought the team was better without Avery.
In some ways, yes.
And from this, someone would have to fill Avery's place on the team. Is that correct?
Yes.
With Becker kicked off the team, you would have a larger role in mock trial.
Objection speculation.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Oh, yes, I'm asking you to respond.
In terms of this helps understanding the roles upon which Alex and Avery had within mock trial, and as well as proving the relationship between the two for this case.
Okay, I ask a cleaner question, so I'll overrule the objection, but I do want you to rephrase, okay? Go ahead.
Leslie, I would like to ask, you were excited for the role on the A team now that Avery was gone. Is that correct?
Sure, who wouldn't be?
Is that a yes or a no?
Yeah.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, counsel, for the prosecution, I'll give you an opportunity to ask one question on redirect. We're running a little behind.
Ms. Cifuentes, are those texts between you and Avery accurate representations?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
And because I gave her a chance, defense, if you've got a question based on her redirect. Do you have a question based on that, counsel?
No, I do not, Your Honor.
All right, great. The witness may be excused. All right, does the defense have a witness?
You're on mute.
Apologies, sorry. Your Honor, the defense would like to call their first witness, Avery Becker, to the stand.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Avery, could you please state your name for the record and spell your last?
My name's Avery Becker, Becker.
Avery, where do you go to school?
I go to Colorado High School, or I went to Colorado High School.
Were you involved in any clubs or activities at the school?
Yes, I was on mock trial for 4 years.
Why did you decide to participate in mock trial?
My friend Taylor and I we joined together. We thought it was a fun way to get out of the house and hang out. I also got to use my phone at mock trial, which was something I couldn't do at home until I finished my homework.
Who was the coach of the mock trial team?
Mackenzie Brackman, who was tragically murdered.
How was your relationship with Brackman?
We never really got along, but I respected his coaching ability. He always yelled at me for being lazy and for not preparing, which caused a lot of arguments.
Did you get into any trouble with Brackman?
I did, because I didn't prepare. I remember one time before regionals, he thought I really wasn't prepared, so he bumped me down to the B team, which is where less experienced team members tend to end up.
Did you ever get back onto the A team?
I did, yes.
How did you?
My friend Taylor Perkins didn't really like mock trial, and they were on A team, so I talked to them and they offered to quit. And since there wasn't any time to train another person, I was put back on an A team.
In mock trial, are there any forms of competition?
Yes, we have tournaments.
And how did you perform at the most recent competition?
I did really well. I received the Best Attorney Award and Best Closing Award.
How did Brackman respond to your success at the competition?
He wasn't happy. He said that I didn't deserve my Best Attorney Award and that I was relying on my good looks. He talked about my lack of preparation again in front of everyone.
After that, what did you do?
I got really upset and I insulted him. I ended up storming out of practice with what I thought was a dry erase marker, and I saw Brackman's car outside and I wrote Worst Attorney Award on the hood of the car.
So what did you write this message with?
Permanent marker, but I thought it was dry erase marker at the time.
Okay. How do you feel about accidentally using this permanent marker?
I feel really terrible. I really regret it a lot.
Did you have any intent to ruin Mackenzie Brackman's car?
No, I didn't. I thought it was dry erase marker, and I would never have done it if I knew that it would leave permanent harm.
Did you observe Brackman respond to you writing on the car?
Yeah, I did. He was really mad and kicked me off the mock trial team.
Okay, moving on to the next morning. What did you do that morning?
I went to Brackman's office to apologize in person, but his secretary said that he didn't want to see me, so I left.
What did you do after you left his office?
I texted him to apologize. I offered to scrub his car or to get a summer job to pay to repaint the car. I never got a response back, though.
On March 5th, 2020, the day before Brackman was tragically found deceased, did you go anywhere?
Yes, in the afternoon, I went to the Fry Shack in the mall with Taylor Perkins.
Did you see anybody else at the Fry Shack?
Yeah, there were at the Fry Shack, there were other mockers or mock trial members, including Alex Cifuentes.
Did you have anything with you while you were with Alex?
I had my phone.
And what were you doing with your phone?
I set it on the table when I was talking to them.
Okay. Did you talk to Alex at the Fry Shack?
Yeah, we talked about me getting kicked off the team, and Alex started to apologize, but we'd never really gotten along. And so it just made me more upset and I stormed off.
Your Honor, I would like to present the document that has been marked as Exhibit 14 and has previously been admitted.
Go ahead.
I'm just currently waiting for my co-counsel to share it on their screen. Apologies for the wait. Could someone on my team please share this document at the moment? Thank you. Avery, did you send any of these text messages?
No.
And do you recognize any of the text messages?
No.
Okay, that's all for this document. Thank you. So, Avery, do you know Alex Cifuentes?
Yes.
How do you know them, or where do you know them from?
We were both on the mock trial team.
Beyond that, were you familiar with each other?
We only knew each other in mock trial. I never talked to Cifuentes outside of it.
From what you know, did Alex Cifuentes have any other friends?
Yes, she was friends with Blair Rollins.
Who is this Blair Rollins?
They're another student at CHS.
Have you ever seen Blair Rollins?
Yes, I have. We look very similar physically. People confuse the two of us a lot.
Objection, relevance.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Please.
I am just noting the similarities between Avery Becker and any potential other suspects.
That was not responsive to your question. So based on that, I'm going to sustain that objection.
Okay. Avery, do you have anything in common with Blair Rollins from what you know?
Yeah, we look similar physically.
Do people ever confuse you?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of Blair Rollins' father, Jonathan Rollins?
Yes, I am. In the community, Brackman is known for losing the case that sent Rollins' father to jail.
Okay, thank you. The next morning, the day Mackenzie Brackman was found deceased, what did you do?
I couldn't find my phone, so me and Taylor cut class and tried to find it by retracing our steps.
And what efforts did you take to find your phone while retracing your steps?
We went to the mall in the Fry Shack. Taylor kept calling and texting my phone, but it went straight to voicemail. We never found it.
Did you ever stray from your search for your phone that day?
No, we kept on our path and we just kept on retracing our steps.
Did you ever go by Mackenzie Brackman's house on March 6th, 2020?
No, we were only checking around the house or the mall and the Fry Shack.
Did you kill Mackenzie Brackman?
No, I hated Brackman, but I would never kill anyone.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Mock trial was important to you, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
It came very easily to you?
Yeah.
You state on line 16 of your statement that you could spin a yarn that had those scoring judges like putty in your hands.
Yes, I did.
Spinning a yarn is a nice way of saying lying.
Well, that's...
Objection, relevance.
Goes to credibility. I'm going to overrule that objection.
It's manipulative.
Well, that's the point of mock trial, isn't it? To win a case. I was being a good attorney.
Mr. Brackman didn't approve that you did things that way, did he?
I think he more disapproved of me being late and not preparing.
Yes or no, please, Miss Becker.
No.
He never gave you credit for your accomplishments.
No.
You argued frequently, correct?
Yes.
You thought he was full of himself.
Yes.
You thought he was a joke.
I wouldn't call it a joke, but yes.
Actually, on line 35 of your statement, you do say he was a joke.
Yes, I did.
In fact, on line 138 of your statement, you admit you hated him.
Yes.
At one point, you were even demoted to B team.
Yes, I was.
But you were rescued because of your best friend, Taylor Perkins.
Yes.
Taylor would do anything for you?
I don't know if anything is, but yes, she would.
She even skipped an entire day of school searching for your phone with you at the mall.
Yes.
You could have gone alone.
Yes.
No one can verify except for your best friend that you were genuinely looking for your phone at the mall on March 6th.
Yes, but neither of us would lie.
But no one else is here today to testify to that except for Taylor.
Yes.
You left the Fry Shack without noticing your phone wasn't with you?
Yes.
The whole time you were at the mall, you didn't realize it was missing?
Yes.
Your parents take your phone every night until your homework is done.
Yes.
Yet you didn't notice it was gone that entire evening?
Well, I was really upset.
You didn't realize he was missing until you actually picked Taylor up for school that morning.
Yes.
Somehow, you didn't realize for around 12 hours that your phone was missing.
Well, yeah, but I was really upset at the time and I wasn't really worried
Yes,
about it.
Ms. Becker.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's go back to when you rejoined A-Team. You won Best Attorney in Closing at Regionals.
Yes.
And even then, Mr. Brackman lectured you at practice.
Yeah.
This made you mad?
Yeah.
It caused you to lash out.
Well, yeah, it would for anyone.
You vandalized his prized possession, his car.
Yes.
You took the object you knew he loved and purposely wrecked it as revenge.
Well, yes, but I thought it wouldn't leave permanent harm.
But you did go and vandalize it.
Yes.
This made Mr. Brackman enraged.
Yes.
He screamed at you in the middle of the parking lot.
Yes.
He then kicked you off the team permanently.
Yeah.
The next day, you went to his office to apologize.
Yes.
He refused to talk to you.
Yes.
This made you even more furious.
I wouldn't say furious, but yes.
So, you went to Mr. Brackman's house to get payback again.
No.
You thought he would be at work.
No.
You walked right into that house.
No.
But he surprised you.
No.
You physically fought and then you stabbed him.
No.
But as you stated on line 104 of your statement, you told your mom you would get back at Mr. Brackman if it was the last thing you did.
Yes, but that didn't include murder.
But you did say that.
I did say that, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. No further questions.
Your Honor, do I have permission to ask one or two redirect questions?
You do. Mm-hmm.
Avery, did you intend to ruin Brackman's Porsche?
Yes, I did, but not permanently. I only wanted to leave temporary harm. It was never supposed to be a permanent marker.
And did you try to apologize?
I did. On several occasions. I felt really bad when I realized that it was permanent marker.
No further questions, Your Honor.
And again, prosecution, I'll allow you to ask one question on recross based on those questions.
That's okay, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Next witness, please.
Your Honor, I would like to call witness Taylor Perkins to the stand.
Okay.
May I begin questioning?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Please state your first name and spell your last for the record.
Taylor Perkins, Perkins.
So, Taylor, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you attend school?
I'm a freshman at Colorado University Boulder, but I graduated from Colorado High School last year.
And what extracurricular activities, if any, were you a part of at Colorado High School?
I did mock trial, but only because my best friend did it.
And who's your best friend?
Avery Becker.
How did you know Avery?
She was also a part of mock trial at CHS.
How did you and Avery perform at mock trial?
I was okay, but Avery was amazing without putting much effort, which upset Brackman.
Who's Brackman?
He is our late team coach and litigator.
Did you notice that Avery would come unprepared to mock trial meetings often?
Yes, sometimes. There was this one day where it got...
Leading question.
Counsel?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I said objection, leading question.
Your Honor, may I rephrase?
So I will sustain that objection. Yes, please rephrase.
Taylor, did you notice that Avery would... How would you describe Avery's preparation for mock trial competitions?
She did show up unprepared at times, not that it was necessary, and because of that, Brackman got upset.
And were there any occurrences where it was particularly bad?
Yes, about days before regionals, she showed up the most unprepared I'd seen her, and Brackman demoted her to the B team.
How did you react to Avery's demotion to the B team?
I decided to step down in support of my friend.
And why did you decide to step down?
I knew that if I stepped down, Brackman would have no other choice but to replace me with an experienced member like Avery.
And after you decided to step down, did the team's performance change at all?
They did do really well at regionals, but Avery was kicked off before state.
Why did Avery get kicked off the team?
She unknowingly vandalized Brackman's car with a permanent marker.
You just stated that Avery unknowingly vandalized the car. What do you mean by this?
It was meant to be done with a dry erase marker.
Objection,
What happened after
speculation.
this?
Oh, I'm sorry. Was the objection speculation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Counsel, response?
Taylor is simply describing her recollection of the events as she observed them.
Based on the way the question's asked, I will sustain that objection. Go ahead and ask your question a different way.
I'll move on.
Okay.
What happened after Avery got kicked off the team?
She contacted everyone on the mock trial team, including Brackman, to apologize and try to get back on. She even showed up one practice to apologize in person, but got kicked out.
Let's talk about that day, Thursday, March 5th. What happened after Avery left practice?
She came over to my house and we just hung out.
Were you at your house for the entire evening?
No, we actually went to the Fry Shack a little later.
Was there anyone else that you knew at the Fry Shack?
Yeah, we should have expected it, but the rest of the mock trial team, including Alex Cifuentes, were there.
Who is Alex Cifuentes?
A member of the mock trial team.
How would you describe the relationship between you and Alex?
Alex always come across to me as insincere and passive aggressive.
And how would you describe the relationship between Alex and Avery?
Well, Avery was naturally talented and got a lot of the big roles on the team, and Alex acted like a typically jealous person.
Speaking of other CHS students, did you know a student named Blair Rollins?
Oh, yeah. Blair Rollins, if you asked anyone in our high school who would most likely grow up to be a serial killer, they'd answer Blair. She was actually friends with Alex.
What happened while you were at the Fry Shack that day after practice?
Alex came over to talk to Avery and I at our table. And because of that, Avery actually got upset and stormed off to the bathroom.
What happened when she stormed off?
She left her phone on the table, which was surprising because that thing is like a third kidney to her.
You mentioned that Avery left her phone on the table when she went to the bathroom. Do you remember if she took it with her when you left the restaurant?
I was not 100% sure.
And when did you decide to leave the Fry Shack?
As soon as Avery came back to the bathroom, we were done talking to Alex, so we left.
Let's move on to the day of the crime. What occurred the next morning on March 6th?
Avery came to pick me up for school, and I talked to her and asked her about why she wasn't answering my texts or calls. And that's when we found out that her phone was missing.
How did you react to this realization?
Avery was super concerned, so I suggested that we skip school to go look for it.
Where did you decide to go to look for it?
We went to the Fry Shack. The phone wasn't there. We went to the mall and went around every store that we had visited previously. Wasn't there. Then we went back to the Fry Shack to check again with the afternoon staff.
Did you try to use any other technology or phones to try to find Avery's phone?
Yeah, we used my phone. We tried calling her phone a couple of times, but nothing.
When did you decide to stop searching for her phone?
The second time we went back to the Fry Shack and we got no word of it, we gave up.
When you went back to the Fry Shack, was there anyone else who you knew there?
Yeah, surprisingly, the mock trial team and Alex were there.
And why did you think that that was surprising?
I mean, it's terrible, but that was when Brackman was killed. Truly terrible.
Throughout the course of this day, did you ever stray from your search for the phone?
No.
And did you ever go to Mackenzie Brackman's house?
No, never.
And you were with Avery for the entire day?
The whole day, yeah.
And over the course of the couple days leading up to the murder, as well as the day of the murder, did you observe Avery acting unusual or angry?
No.
Why are you testifying here today?
To tell the truth.
Finally, because you and Avery are so close, would you ever lie to support her?
No, not when it concerns someone's life. Never.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Perkins, the defendant Avery is your best friend.
Yep, the best.
You spent a lot of time together, like driving to school.
Yep.
She's one of the reasons you did mock trial.
Yeah.
You and Avery did mock trial for 4 years.
Yeah.
You were both very good at it.
I mean, Avery better than I, but yeah.
And mock trial requires you to be very good at making things up on the spot.
Yeah, definitely.
And pretending to be someone else.
Yeah.
Essentially, it requires you to be very good at acting.
Oh, yeah.
Which is essentially lying.
Not necessarily, no.
Avery had a pretty high opinion of herself.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Brackman gave her a hard time for giving little effort.
Yeah, unfairly.
And for being unprepared.
Yeah, not like she needed to be, but.
And for being late to practice.
Yeah.
In fact, because of those things, she was demoted to B team.
Oh, yeah. Totally unfair.
Which made her angry.
I mean, I was a little upset too.
So you thought this was unfair?
Yeah.
And because she got demoted, you quit A team in support of your friend.
Oh, yeah.
So that she could move back up to A team.
Yeah.
And in your direct, you just stated that you knew if you stepped down, Brackman would have to move Avery back up, which is essentially manipulating Brackman.
No, not necessarily, because Brackman would be aware of what he was doing and would be aware of the choices. He just made the choice to.
Yes or no answer, please.
No.
So if you're willing to quit A team for Avery, what are you willing to do to save her from being charged today?
Well, I'm willing to tell the truth, which should be enough.
You also admit that Avery and Brackman had a feud.
Yes.
Which you found funny.
Yeah.
But Avery didn't find the feud funny.
No, she took mock trial more seriously than I did.
In fact, she was bothered enough to play some pranks on him.
Yes.
But it was more than pranks.
What do you mean?
She impulsively reacted to things sometimes.
Only on one occasion, yes.
And she could be rash.
Yep.
In fact, when Brackman told her she didn't deserve the award she won at regionals, she was angry.
Yeah, because she did deserve the award.
And she was so angry that when she saw Brackman's beloved Porsche in the parking lot, she wrote Worst Attorney Award in permanent marker.
It was meant to be dry erase marker.
So at least one of Avery's pranks caused serious damage.
Yes, at least one.
And this was spiteful.
Yes, it was.
And irrational.
I wouldn't call it irrational, no.
If Avery is spiteful enough to ruin his car, then wouldn't she be spiteful enough to pull a prank at his house?
No.
Avery's phone is like her third kidney.
Yeah.
It's never out of reach.
Not usually, no.
You stated that she may have left her phone at the Fry Shack the day you saw the mock trial team there,
Hmm.
but you're not sure.
I was not 100% sure. No.
So you admit that Avery could have had her phone after you both left the Fry Shack.
When Avery came to pick me up, she did not have her phone because she was not answering my texts or
Can I have
calls.
a yes or no answer, please?
Yes.
Because it's like her third kidney, it's unlikely that Avery, a teenager, forgot her phone for the entire rest of the day and then the night.
I would say it's very likely when she was as upset as she was.
In fact, she didn't remember losing her phone until the next day when you brought it up,
Yeah, correct.
because it actually didn't happen.
No, because it did happen. She was just.
Objection, argumentative question.
Sustained.
Once you allegedly realized her phone was missing, you both spent the entire day looking for it.
Yeah, whole day.
Yet neither of you ever thought to use Find My iPhone.
No, we weren't aware at the time.
Wouldn't someone so attached to their phone know how to find it pretty easily?
Well, as concerned as Avery was, she was probably more preoccupied with just finding it rather than thinking of rational solutions.
Could I have a yes or no answer, please?
No.
And since it's unlikely that Avery probably forgot her phone, it's unlikely that Avery was able to get it and make up those text messages.
Well, it was likely that she lost her phone. So
Even though it's her third, it's like her third kidney.
yes, but as upset as she was, and as upset as I was on her behalf, then it's very likely that she lost her phone, therefore likely for someone else to have made up those text messages.
Well, in your statement, you admit that Alex helping Blair Rollins kill Brackman is a stretch and unlikely.
Yes, killing them, but not making up those text messages.
You also state that Avery performed flawlessly while making things up on the fly.
Yep.
Which is essentially lying.
No, not when it's acting for a specific purpose.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Your
Counsel,
Honor, do I have permission to perform a quick redirect on my witness?
very quickly. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Miss Perkins, you only did mock trial in high school just because Avery did it, correct?
Yeah.
And just because she's your best friend, you wouldn't lie to support her, as you stated in your direct, correct? And your witness statement.
No, I would never lie.
Leading question.
I'll rephrase. Miss Perkins, would you lie to support Avery in this case?
No, not when it concerns someone's life.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Counsel, do you have a question based on redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Oh, great. And finally, do we have a final witness?
Yes, Your Honor. My counsel would like to call Blake Van Owen to the stand. Mr. Van Owen must be having technical issues at the moment.
I'm here.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Please, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Van Owen. Can you please state your name, spelling the last for the record?
My name is Blake Van Owen, Vanowen.
Thank you. And what do you do for a living?
I'm a private investigator, a professor, and an expert witness in police practices.
And what did you do before you were a private investigator, a professor, and an expert witness in police practices?
I worked in the Aurora Police Department as a school resource officer and a private security guard.
What type of education do you have?
I obtained my master's degree in criminal justice through Ashford University and taught at Community College of the Rockies at CU Denver.
As an expert witness, what areas do you specialize in?
I testify regularly as an expert witness in police practices, crime scene reconstruction, cell phone tower analysis, and general police investigation tactics.
Now, and from there, in what states have you been accepted as an expert witness in?
I've been accepted as a defense expert in the U.S. district courts, in state courts, in multiple states, which I have accepted as an expert in multiple fields multiple times. I have been consulted in over 100 cases.
Now, what does being a defense expert witness entail?
Prosecutors use law enforcement personnel for their expert witnesses. I specialize in all areas that law enforcement personnel specialize in from experience.
Your Honor, I would like to offer Blake Van Owen as an expert in crime scene reconstruction, cell phone tower analysis, and general police investigation tactics.
Is there voir dire or objection from the prosecution?
Yes, Your Honor. May I voir dire?
You may.
Professor, you obtained your bachelor's degree in English at CU Boulder.
Yes.
Objection relevance?
This goes to his qualifications, so I will allow the question.
After that, you only served as a police officer for the Aurora Police Department for 9 months.
Yes.
Nonetheless, you consider yourself an expert on a job that you quit.
Yes, I did.
You were
What?
never the lead detective of a homicide
Yes.
or a robbery.
Or a robbery, no. Or yes.
You were never the lead investigator in any case.
No.
You never filed a case as a detective?
Yes, I have.
As a detective, police officer, you never filed a case.
No.
You also never testified as an expert when you were a police officer.
That is true.
You never completed any other advanced training through the police department.
No.
So all of your opinions on police procedure and tactics are based solely on your 9 months of training.
Yes.
Your Honor, the prosecution objects to the expert being admitted in the fields of police practices, crime scene reconstruction, and cell phone tower analysis.
Counsel, he has been accepted as an expert in other jurisdictions. Those sound like great topics for cross-examination and for closing, but I will accept him as an expert. Okay?
Your Honor, may I proceed?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Van Owen, as an expert, what steps would you take to investigate a case like this?
I would review police reports, the crime scene reconstruction, the cell reports, the exhibits, and conduct investigation into other possible witnesses.
And what have you investigated in this case?
I reviewed and analyzed the police reports made by Kyle Kuzak and by Detective Markowitz.
In your expert opinion, what is your conclusion on this investigation?
Police investigation was rushed. There were missing pieces in their investigation.
What were these missing pieces?
There's inconsistencies with the investigation, the physical evidence of a struggle, the weapon, the theory that Brackman was surprised by the ring notification, and the photos of blood is missing.
Now let's move on to the crime scene reconstruction. What did you agree in Kuzak's crime scene reconstruction?
I agree that the physical on-scene evidence points to an intruder who broke into the house of Brackman.
And what do you disagree with in the creation of this crime scene reconstruction?
It's possible Markowitz planned the idea of Avery Becker being a suspect in Kuzak's mind before Kuzak analyzed the crime scene. This can cause bias.
Now let's move.
Speculation.
He is an expert, so it sounds like he's forming an opinion that's within his field of expertise. So I will overrule that objection.
Now let's move on to the physical evidence of struggle. What was inaccurate with it?
The evidence of a supposed struggle is the suffocating or the scuffing of the floor. However, there is no before or after picture. These scuffs could have been made with anything or at any time before the murder.
Is there any way to date these scuff marks?
No.
Now I'd like to talk about the missing pieces surrounding the murder weapon. What was inaccurate with the theory of the murder weapon?
In Cusack's investigation, they come to the conclusion that the intruder stabbed Brackman with the same knife in the kitchen, but no proof the knife was from Brackman's kitchen.
And was the evidence that the knife was not from Brackman's kitchen?
The murder weapon was a different brand, a different style, and the dimensions were different compared to the other knives in the knife block.
Where do you think the knife comes from?
The murder probably brought the knife onto the scene.
Was there anything else wrong with the knife?
The knife's position in the hand.
What is your interpretation on how the knife would have been held?
I believe the knife was held with a blade downward from my From my experience, it's way more common for them to hold knives downwards versus upwards.
Now, why do you think the knife was in a downward hold?
Like I said, the knife was held downwards, and it's more comfortable for someone to hold it downwards than upwards.
All right. Now that we've established that you theorized the knife was used in a downwards angle, how does this change the prosecution's narrative?
Say again?
Now that we've established that you theorized that the knife was used in a downwards angle, how does this change the prosecution's narrative?
The prosecution's narrative is changed in a different way. They say that it's rather that Brackman was he was startled by the appearance of Avery and thus got up to confront. But what ended up happening was a struggle. What I think would have actually happened is Avery sneaking up onto Brackman and basically committing a stealthy kill.
Now, moving on, why do you say that Brackman was unaware of the intruder?
Likely due to the notifications.
And where are these notifications from?
These notifications could have come from either Ring, could have come from the Ring app.
And why is the Ring notification a missing piece in this investigation?
Detective Markowitz didn't obtain the user's accounts for the Ring video in order to see if Brackman had his notifications on or off.
Now, I'd like to talk about the inconsistency of the crime scene reconstruction. What was missing about the photos of blood?
Detective Markowitz didn't a description the police no let me restart this how I say this the police lost the pictures of the blood drops in the hallway and the blood cast off the wall near the front door.
And what could have the blood photos proven?
Description of
relevance.
Your Honor, may I respond?
No, overruled. Go ahead.
Professor Vano, would you like me to repeat the question?
Go ahead.
What could have the blood photos proven?
The description, they could have kept the description of the blood could have given us an insight into the crime scene and onto who killed the victim.
Now, what could have the police department done differently?
It could have kept more than one copy of the crime scene photos.
Now, I would like to direct everyone's attention to Exhibits 15 and 16. Your Honor, may you please present what has been marked and admitted as Exhibits 15 and 16?
I don't believe 15's been admitted.
Your Honor, may I please present what's been marked as Exhibit 16.
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now moving on, what is this?
These are call detail records that Markowitz obtained.
And for this, can you walk through your analysis of this exhibit?
Cell phone tower 1191 shows a call from Perkins relayed from antenna 2 to 3. For each call and text to Becker from Perkins, Perkins' phone is relayed by tower 1191. Antenna 2 covers them all. Late at 2:10 p.m., Perkins' phone is connected to antenna 3 for an outgoing call to Becker's phone. Becker's phone is shown not receive it, so it was either out of battery or it pinged off a tower that was further, and Markowitz did not check.
Now, Professor Van Owen, lastly, I would like to ask one more question here. Based on all of the evidence you've seen in this case, as well as all the inconsistencies you've investigated, what is your conclusion on this case?
My conclusion is that there is no evidence that the intruder was surprised by Brackman and during a struggle stabbed Brackman with the same knife from Brackman's knife block.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes, please.
So you left the police department after you injured a woman during an arrest.
Yes.
The woman sued the APD and you individually.
Yes.
You stated you were disillusioned with police work after this experience.
Yes.
Consequently, you like to think of yourself as a check on the power of police.
Yes.
Professor, you've only been an expert for the defense, never for the prosecution.
Yes.
You've stated that you make a decent living, revealing where the police have dropped the ball.
Objection, relevance?
Counsel?
Your Honor, the witness mentions this in their statement, and the price that they get paid shows how they form their opinions and the different rates about if they just do investigation work or if they go to court.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Please.
I can't seem to find the relation between Blake Van Owen's pay and whether Avery Becker committed burglary and murder.
It does go to credibility and bias, so I'm going to overrule that objection. Go ahead, counsel.
So you have stated that you make a decent living revealing where the police have dropped the ball.
Yes.
You charge $225 per hour for research, writing, and investigation work.
Yes.
You charge $450 per hour for deposition and court testimony.
Yes.
So if you opine that the prosecution failed in their process, the case is more likely to go to trial.
Yes.
And if the case goes to trial, you make $215 more per hour.
Yes.
So you stated in your direct examination that you believe the knife blade was pointing up. However, in your statement, you said that the knife was held in reverse position. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
And when you are using a knife to cut food, the knife blade is pointing down.
Correct.
Yet you claim the blade was pointing up when Brackman was stabbed.
Yes.
You have also stated that knife construction itself can affect how the user will hold it.
Yes.
Aren't kitchen knives, such as the murder weapon used in this case, designed to have the blade pointing down?
They are, yes.
You actually stated it would be more common for the knife to be held in reverse position.
Yes.
You also believe that Brackman was seated, not standing when he was stabbed.
Yes.
You stated the ring video showed the intruder was of similar build to Mackenzie Brackman.
Yes.
So if the intruder and the victim were of similar build, isn't it plausible that the intruder could have easily raised their arm above Brackman's back to stab him?
Yes, they could have.
You also disagree that the unanswered texts and calls on March 6th show that Taylor was trying to get in touch with the defendant, Avery Becker.
Yes.
Yet Taylor stated that Avery hadn't answered her text in the morning about whether or not they were riding to school together.
Yes.
So based on that evidence, Taylor was trying to get in touch with Avery, wasn't she?
Yes.
You weren't a part of the PD team that investigated Brackman's death.
Yes.
You weren't at the crime scene?
No.
You didn't collect any evidence?
Objection relevance.
Overruled. Go ahead.
You didn't collect any evidence?
Yes, I did.
You didn't collect any evidence from the crime scene?
No, I didn't.
You didn't conduct any witness interviews?
No.
You couldn't assess the truthfulness of any witnesses?
No.
You didn't talk with the distraught family members of the victim?
No.
You only looked at the investigation of the murder in hindsight?
Yes.
You could have obtained cell tower records from the day prior to the murder, but you didn't.
No, I did not.
If you had those records, it could have corroborated that Avery and Taylor's testimony. It could have corroborated their testimony, correct?
Correct.
You admit that you should have obtained those records.
Yes.
And most importantly, you did not present any evidence in your direct examination of any other suspect.
Yes, I did not.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Counsel, I will allow one or two at the most follow-up questions on redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have one question. Mr. Van Owen, based on all the evidence and everything that you've investigated, is it conclusive that the police work done was a good job?
Yes, but they could have done better.
No further questions, Your Honor.
I'm assuming based on that, there's no recross. Counsel?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So at this point, does the prosecution have a closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor. May I
Proceed.
Okay.
Proceed.
It was payback gone wrong. On March 6, 2020, Avery Becker broke into Mackenzie Brackman's house. Avery Becker wanted to cause some trouble, shake Brackman up, and get revenge. Maybe Avery didn't intend to kill her coach that day. Nonetheless, Mackenzie Brackman ended up lying face down in a pool of blood, dead. Your Honor, members of the jury, the people proved beyond a reasonable doubt, based upon all evidence, including circumstantial evidence, that Avery Becker committed second-degree burglary and murder in the first degree, otherwise known as felony murder, on March 6th. When Avery was upset over an argument at practice, she wrote "Worst Attorney Award" on the hood of Brackman's car in permanent marker. That day, Avery showed us who she really is: impulsive, vindictive, malicious. When Avery was permanently kicked off the team, she wasn't just upset. She was enraged. She decided to go to Brackman's house and trash it to get payback. Maybe she didn't think he'd be home. Maybe she didn't think that he would be armed with a knife. Maybe she wasn't thinking at all. It was payback gone wrong. Avery denies that she was at Brackman's house on March 6th because, according to Avery and Taylor Perkins, Avery's alibi witness and best friend, they were looking for Avery's phone all day, which we heard was like Avery's third kidney. The defense wants you to believe that Avery lost her phone on March 5th and didn't realize until the next day that it was missing. Use your common sense. We know that Avery's parents took her phone every night. Also, what teenager can survive without their phone for possibly up to 12 hours? The evidence shows that there were both texts and calls from Taylor to Avery's phone on the day of the murder. But no one sends a text to find a phone, especially in a noisy mall or burger joint. As everyone knows, you use the app Find My iPhone. As everyone also knows, Taylor would do anything for Avery. Remember, Taylor quit the A-team so that Brackman would have to take Avery back. What would Taylor do to keep Avery out of prison? Most importantly, the defense did not present any evidence of any other suspect, leading the most evidence points to Avery Becker. We have proved through our witnesses that Avery Becker broke into Brackman's house and killed him, whether she meant to or not, which is felony murder. Alex Cifuentes testified that Avery texted that she was going to break into Brackman's house and trash it, which constitutes the felony of second-degree burglary. In Avery's words, that'll show him. Detective Markowitz proved that Avery was in the area of Brackman's house at the time of the murder. The texts and calls showed Taylor was desperately trying to get in touch with Avery, who was not responding because she was at Brackman's house. And lastly, the crime scene photographs are evidence of a struggle, which Kyle Kuzak confirmed. The evidence shows that in the end, Avery fatally stabbed Brackman. Only Avery knows if she entered that house with the intent to kill. But her intent to kill doesn't matter. What matters is that while committing the felony of second-degree burglary, Mackenzie Brackman ended up dead, lying in a pool of his own blood. It was payback gone wrong. Members of the jury, we ask you to find Avery Becker guilty of the murder of Mackenzie Brackman. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Does the defense have a closing argument?
Yes, we do. May I proceed?
Please.
There always seems to be a missing piece to the puzzle. The frustration knowing you didn't fully complete the puzzle is always there when you have these missing pieces. The puzzle is the murder we are looking at today, and the prosecution thinking that they have all of the information they need to prove the counts brought upon the defendant are true beyond a reasonable doubt. However, their case is riddled with missing pieces. And the evidence you heard today undoubtedly shows that the defendant, Avery Becker, did not commit these crimes. The two counts brought upon Avery are first-degree murder and second-degree burglary. Count 2, the burglary, was not proven beyond a reasonable doubt, as the only personal possession of Mackenzie Brackman that was broken was a plate, and that single plate was accidentally broken. There are so many missing puzzle pieces in the prosecution's case. The first missing piece is that there's no way of proving that Avery was at 444 South Flower Street, the victim's house, on March 6, 2020. Avery Becker was out with their friend, Taylor Perkins, looking for their phone, which was lost or stolen the previous day. The cell phone tower data Detective Markowitz brought up cannot sufficiently prove that Avery went to the house, but can only prove the phone went in that general direction. The second missing piece is that there is no way to tell who was at the door, because the perpetrator was wearing a mask concealing their face and gloves preventing any DNA or fingerprints from being found. The third missing piece is that there is no way to tell who was at the door, and it is very possible it could have been someone else. Blair Rollins hates Brackman more than anyone, and their father was sent to jail in a case which Brackman lost. That seems like a good motive for Blair Rollins to have committed this crime. The fourth missing piece is that Avery Becker had no motive. They're just a teenage kid attempting to be extremely apologetic and remorseful to Brackman for the accident of writing worst attorney award in permanent marker. It was supposed to be dry erase marker. The fifth missing piece is that Avery Becker, despite what prosecution wants you to think, was not friends with Alex Cifuentes and would not go to Alex for help. Because Avery would not go to Alex for help, the sixth missing piece is that the screenshots could easily be fake, putting the blame on Avery Becker. The seventh missing piece is that there is no way to be sure Brackman was alerted by the Ring doorbell and security cameras and armed himself in a matter of 10 seconds. The eighth missing piece is the knife. Who would replace a knife with a less expensive knife if the previous knife was broken? The ninth missing piece is that there is no way to be sure there was a scuffle that resulted in the plate breaking and scuff marks being made, because there are other ways these things could happen. The 10th missing piece and final missing piece is that the prosecution was sloppy enough to lose these potentially crucial pieces of evidence, the blood splatter and blood cast-off photos. Avery Becker, the prosecution also cannot prove that Avery Becker would have given the phone to their parents, as Avery was able to bring their phone to the fry shack that day, so they must have been able to have their phone privileges. The insane thing about all of this is that no one looked into this information. Detective Markowitz and Kyle Kuzak did not look into this, but took the easy route instead of taking the time to gather all of the evidence they needed to surely prove it was Avery Becker, Blair Rollins, or any other suspects in this case. Rather, they jumped to that super easy conclusion and only used evidence they wanted to come to the conclusion, ignoring all other evidence. We cannot believe the biased, sloppy prosecution who were not able to handle the collection of evidence, keeping of evidence, and analysis of evidence. Missing, missing, missing. The prosecution is simply disregarding the missing pieces, the most prominent being the lack of direct evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt Avery Becker was at the scene, which is enough to disprove both counts. But the prosecution is trying to say that the puzzle looks complete without are just disregarding the pieces. There is no way prosecution can prove beyond a reasonable doubt, which is way above my head, that Avery Becker committed the counts. They can only prove up to my waist with evidence. And that is why I ask of you to submit a verdict of Avery Becker being not guilty in this case.
Thank you. Prosecution, it looked like you have some rebuttal time left. Would you like to do your rebuttal argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
The prosecution's puzzle pieces were more than sufficient to solve the puzzle. Your Honor, members of the jury, in Avery's statement, she told her mom she would get back at Brackman if it was the last thing she did. Boy, did she get back at him. When considering all the evidence, we proved that Avery Becker is guilty of second-degree burglary and felony murder beyond a reasonable doubt. Thank you.
All right, thank you, counsel. All right, everybody, here's how we'll do this. We will get the scores from the scoring panelists in. When they've submitted their scores, they'll let me know by putting their photo back on the screen. And then we'll have some time for some feedback for you guys about what we thought about your performance during this round. So don't go anywhere. Once we get all the scores submitted, we'll come back and we'll go ahead and discuss what happened this afternoon, okay? So scoring panelists, if what you'll do, if once you get your scores submitted, if you go ahead and turn your video back on, that'll tell me that you've submitted your scores.
Well, I can't do that because it won't let me start my video.
Okay, well, just
I think we're all better off that way.
Okay, that's fine. Just once you get it submitted, then that'll allow us that we can go ahead and give some feedback.
I think I submitted it. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I submitted it. I just don't have a video.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine, Mr. Gray.
Oh, wait. Let's try it again. One more time. No, the host has stopped my video. Okay, I need to shave. Ah, there it goes. Okay, I'm in. It's not 5 o'clock yet. Okay.
Okay, it looks like Mr. Rich and Miss Sharp have, appears as though they have submitted their scores. So we're running just a touch behind. We've actually made really good ground initially. We were way behind, but we really caught up quick. Okay, so is everybody else back online? Are the teams back online?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, if everybody can get back online, what I'd like to do is I would like to start with Miss Sharp, and then we'll go down the line and see if she has any comments about what she thought about everyone's performance. Okay, so Miss Sharp.
So first, I'd like to say thank you for your wonderful presentation, for your hard work. It's clear that you all put in a lot of work and effort. My name is Victoria Sharp. I'm a Chief Deputy District Attorney. I've been one for 24 years, so I'm in court a lot and know murder very well, unfortunately. I thought you did very well. A couple of points. The one that kind of got me, which you would not know, but you would want to know if you go onto state, is you cannot comment on a defendant's failure to make a statement to the police. That's an automatic mistrial.
No, you can't.
So
no.
You should avoid doing that during your state presentation, because I don't know if the other scoring panelists would know that that's not in your case problem. The other thing is just an idea about my scoring. I'm also a mock trial coach and parent. And so it drives me crazy when I see witnesses filibustering, meaning they're taking up time, eating up the clock. I think that's unethical. I don't like it. And so depending on how bad it was, I either took 1 point or 2 points off of that witness's score. So if you see a couple of low scores, that's probably reflective of the filibustering. And then finally, I would say, listen to the questions, actually second to last, because I have a special shout out for Mr. Rowe. Second to last is, listen to the questions and listen to the answers that you're getting and try and feed off of what you're hearing. Sometimes you script so much that you kind of lose some little nuggets here and there. So sort of pay attention to what you're hearing and try to feed off of that. I saw a couple lawyers do that and it was really well done. My last thing I want to say, Mr. Rowe, I have been in your position, especially in the light of the COVID era where tech doesn't work and you're like freaking out because you're like, can someone please put this exhibit on the screen? It probably felt like 30 minutes were, draining away and everybody's staring at you. It probably was like half a second, but you handled that situation really well. So, well done on an unforeseen and unexpected sort of drawback. So that's all I have.
All right, Mr. Rich.
Just want to reiterate Sharp's statement. You definitely see all the effort that went into it. And this is a tough thing to do. When I was in law school, I did a moot court. And I just remember the first time getting up there and how tough it was. And still, every time I go into the courtroom, there's always the little bit of nerves. I'm a civil defense lawyer, and so I always look at things from the defense perspective. It's just the way I'm built. Even in law school, I did defense work. And so going into this, I was looking at all the holes, and I think the prosecution did a fantastic job of really plugging some of those holes and putting on a compelling case. I very much enjoyed on the defense side the theme of missing pieces of the puzzle. It was a really strong theme. I like how you brought it. You started out with it in the opening, and you brought it together in the close, and you were pointing out what was missing throughout the case. I think that was a good strategy, and I think it was well executed. Special shout outs to Ms. Dellin, I think your cross-examination, fantastic. Same with you, Ms. Hobson. I mean, just give me a yes, give me a yes, give me a yes. Mr. Camus, same thing. With you, I think you did a great job setting signposts. I want to talk to you about this. I want to talk to you about that. And that was really strong, and I think you did great, Mr. Kunath, on that. I think most of the witnesses did a really good job. Frankly, my favorite performance of this round, Miss Munn, going into this round, looking at this case, I thought that Alex Fuentes was the worst witness of the group, and you just performed that part really well, and I was very impressed, and just like to congratulate you on that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
One of the things that, just from a technical perspective, once an exhibit has been admitted, you do not need any more to ask permission to show it. You just show it. The first time you can publish, you ask for permission to publish it to the jury. Once it's been published, they have it. So you don't need to keep asking to publish it. It's, little thing, but it saves time. And, we all know how little time we have in these competitions.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Mr. Prey?
Yeah, well, I've got a couple of things. I mean, I really love a good sparring match between an attorney and a witness. And Miss Munn and Miss Kunath, or Mr. Kunath, gave us one. And Miss McGee and Miss Peck gave us another one. I really enjoyed those. Those are fun. Now, I'm not an attorney. I haven't got anything to do with legal matters. So I'm just looking at it kind of as entertainment. How much am I enjoying this? And I enjoyed those two processes all quite a bit. I have something to say in general to the witnesses. Quite often, the attorneys seem to be just making a statement, and the witnesses respond to the statement. If it's not a question, why are they responding? It should be a question. Otherwise, that's all I have.
All right, Mr. Prey, let me address that for you, okay?
Yes, sir.
You're not an attorney, but and I can ask Ms. Hobson and her teammates if they're trained that way. Because cross-examination, a technique of cross-examination that I use all the time. I don't ask questions on cross-examination. I make statements. But as you see, Mr. Prey, they'll still respond.
Yes, but do they have to?
And well, as long as they're answering your questions, it's not necessarily.
I get that idea, but
it's a technique that's used very often. And Ms. Hobson, does your coach teach you how to ask cross-examination that way?
Yes.
Okay. So Mr. Prey, that's a technique that's taught, and I find it very effective. And I do completely understand where you're coming from, but it's something that's used very, very regularly. And it gives you more control of your witness. Is that what your teacher has taught you, Ms. Hobson? Is that it gives you more control of the witness?
Yes.
Because if you finish every question with, well, didn't you do this correct? Or you did this correct? That correct gives them that moment to think of their answer. Whereas if you just ask the question without that correct at the end, you get a little more control of your witness. So thanks for bringing that up. People that don't ask questions often say, well, boy, that was no question. So
I actually run into that sometimes when I'll ask a question, I'll ask a witness a question and they'll say, is that a question? I said, and then I'll say, do you agree with me? And then they'll say yes. And then it only takes one or two times. And then I've got them in line and they'll keep giving me the yeses. And so sometimes they'll do that. They'll say, I'm sorry, was that a question? And so then that's why you sometimes hear somebody say correct, or is that right? But after you do it a couple of times, they understand and they get in line.
Yeah. Okay.
So Mr. Prey, does that address your
it's just a thing I thought of as I was watching some of these witnesses who would respond to a comment rather than a question. And I'm going like, you don't have to answer that because it's not a question.
But the technique means they do answer the questions. That's just,
Yes, I saw that very well.
they do.
Yeah.
They do. They answer the question. So
There was one more thing I wanted to say, just one more shout out. And this is Miss McGee. I think it was when you were being asked the question about what you would do for your friend, and you said, I'm willing to tell the truth, which should be enough.
Yep.
They were not ready for that answer.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to add much other than I can tell you guys that it's always glaringly obvious when people have put many hours into this.
Oh yeah.
And it's glaringly obvious you guys have put many hours in this. And it's a little difficult to do your opening and closings when you're looking into a computer screen, but try and avert your eyes a little bit so we're not directly looking into the computer screen. It's very difficult because opening and closings were not meant to be read straight off a computer. So try not to read your openings and closings. Ms. Hobson, there was one thing I wanted to point out, and this is actually an inaccuracy that you said in your opening. I don't think anybody will ever hold it against you, but you might want to know this just in case. Not every felony turns into a felony murder. I think you said if you commit a felony and a murder occurs, that is felony murder. That's not necessarily true. So you might want to just kind of look that up before the next round. But everybody, it's just a fantastic job. You guys are just so bright, so articulate, and I wish both teams good luck in the next round.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
You're very, very welcome. It's been my pleasure.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, this is the courtroom monitor, Your Honor. Thank you so much for your time. Scoring panelists, again, on behalf of the high school mock trial in Arapahoe County, thank you so much for your time. You all did wonderful. I've confirmed that they have received your scores already, so you are free to leave. And if you have another round, well, we look forward to seeing you in the next round.
All right.
Again, thank you so much,
I'll
everybody.
be there.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck to all of you.
Thanks, everybody.